Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Patreon deck review. I am Sylphin. In this series we take a look at decks that my Patreons send to me as a part of their reward for pledging certain amounts. If you guys want more information, head on over to patreon.com/Sylphin in order to look at some rewards you can get if you want to pledge an amount to me and support me on a regular basis on what I do here on the channel. Totally voluntary, but nonetheless, you can get some pretty sick rewards. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is sent up by Suicidal, who has a deck for Aurora that he finds very effective in this current phase meta. I would agree Aurora is a fantastic counter pick as she cannot use Purity Sensor to counter that Aurora. So he has sent me a utility Bruiser deck with 20% cooldown reduction and some mana regen. Very interesting. I like the concept right away, and we're going to take a look at that right now. So at in the early game, it looks like we have a Brawler's Ward for a dummy ward. Absolutely like that, as this is going to be in the offlane, I'm pretty much assuming, as she is a fantastic offlaner. Next, we go into a Guardian's Ward. I like the Guardian's Ward, to be honest with you. 2 CP of health. Aurora actually really, she does need it. She does seem like she needs just a little bit of health, especially since she dives so heavy. Little bit of health in the early game, definitely going to be nice. Now this Burn Blood Powder is absolutely perfect. I love Burn Blood Powder for Aurora. It gets damage, which is exactly what you need. A little bit of mana regen, exactly what you need, and attack speed, which is exactly what you need in the math department to get her basic attack DPS up. Yes, there's really not much, there's not much to her in terms of engaging hard with all of her abilities and then sticking around to basic attack. There's not, you can argue that that's not really what she's for, but the kinetic is still going to really help as you bruise your way in the early game. Burn Blood Powder, fantastic option. Then we get another one that is good as well. Some minor strikes and a minor kinetic to finish that one off. So far, it looks like you're going to have to really focus on engaging on the enemy and having a good front line, as you're not building any health on these Burn Blood Powders. You simply can't. So you have to really utilize that mana regen to use some spells and to use that kinetic to really bruise. So you're going to probably need a nice solid frontline jungler, or maybe even a melee support that can help soak up some hits in the front line as well. There are some other options here. Some Mad Stones simply are, they work really well on Aurora as well. Just some power and attack and 1 CP worth of attack speed. That's definitely an option. But the Burn Blood I really like on Aurora. Suits her caster nature and her fighter nature. Next up is the Teleblink. I really like this. You pretty much have to go into the Teleblink after this, because yes, you can engage pretty hard with your glacial charge, but you need something else to follow it up. And what the Teleblink does, easy peasy engagement that you can then follow it up with all of your abilities, and then save the glacial charge to get out of there. I really like it. Basically a must-have on Aurora, so perfect. Next up is a Mind Flow, which is a fantastic card. Now, what I would probably get it a bit sooner, to be honest with you. I would get the Mind Flow as soon as I have my ultimate, because having, spending 3 CP on a Burn Blood or the 3 to finish it off with the upgrades, really not that serious, to be honest with you. I would get that Mind Flow as soon as I have that that ultimate. Especially at level 1, it has a pretty long cooldown, so I would really want to get that as soon as possible. After this is the Chronomancer disc. Love it, love it, love it. It has 2-point casts in it. I would prefer if it was 1-point upgrades just to get that sooner so that you can unlock it. But that is okay. I like the idea of Chronomancer disc and the Mind Flow. They do overlap each other. They do actually stack, and a Chronotonic would be something else I would add in here that also stacks on top of Mind Flow and Chronomancer disc for a total of 30% cooldown reduction. Yes, that does work. So that is something else that I would add in here. Find a way to add in a Chronotonic so you can have that Chronotonic and Mind Flow as soon as you hit level 5, and the Chronomancer disc can simply come online later on. After the Mind Flow, it looks like you actually upgrade the Teleblink with 2, or actually you upgrade the Mind Flow with some basic mana. To be honest with you, and this is probably just in my experience, and you know what, if you guys or you Up Suicidal have the experience to warrant it, I'm not so sure that the mana and that much mana regen is going to be utilized. You're going to go in, do your burst, and then kind of just either die or just get out of there and the job is done. You might go back to base, you might go back into lane, but either way, you don't need the mana regen. That is what my gut is telling me. My experience so far would tell me you don't necessarily need that much mana regen. I would definitely take off the basic mana to be honest with you, as yeah, you have a whole bunch of cooldown reduction, but again, if you are smart with your abilities, I'm pretty sure you can get away with none of those. But after the Chronomancer disc and the Mind Flow, we go into a Guardian's Ward here with a greater health and a major cast. I usually, on my fighter and bruiser decks, the first tanky card that I get, and it works really well, but with I guess the way that I design my decks, it works really well. If you get that Guardian's Ward as a first kind of tanky card with a crap ton of health. That major cast could be a major health, that 2-point health because you took off some of the basic mana cards on the Mind Flow. You could make that a 3-point health. That health there is like a really juicy upgrade for in the tank department. Works really well. Now we go into the Tempered Plate with a 2-point health, greater guard, and a greater guard. That is solid. The Tempered Plate here with the 2 greater guards is a good amount of guard. And depending on how much health you get, you might actually even warrant a 3-point guard. I personally go for 3 greater guards and the Tempered Plate, as usually on my brawler decks I manage to get enough health to warrant that armor, and basic armor is very effective in the math department to counter basic damage. So you can absolutely get 3 greater guards, and with removing those mana and not getting as much mana regen. Personally, again, your experience might validate it. You can definitely get away with that. Then we discard a Burn Blood Powder and get the Tuned Barrier here with 2 greater barriers and a 2-point health. That is absolutely fine. The math even suggests only 1 greater barrier and the rest health on it. But you know what? 2 greater barriers, while that might not be the most efficient, I think what it would do a good job with just making sure you don't get nuked instantaneously to death. So that is absolutely fine. I agree with that. I would definitely see this, the 2-point healths here on the Tempered Plate turning into greater healths because of the fact we got rid of those basic mana here. And something else, because what you can do here is especially consolidate this Teleblink. Either don't get that much or consolidate it into larger pointed upgrades. especially on the Mind Flow, as the passive is not a fully upgraded bonus. That would give you more equipment slots, and what I would do as an Aurora, that's a Bruiser utility, I would actually get a Barrier of Will as an option against this Tempered Plate. What you can do is use large pointed upgrades, because you should have a few extra equipment slots by getting rid of some of these to manage to get a Barrier of Will that has the same card points as this Tempered Plate, and with just very few equipment slots. That is something guaranteed I would absolutely do as well. The Tune Barrier, I would actually do the same. I would get a Thermobond with the same total CP using large point upgrades, not take up too much equipment slots, to be an option against the Tune Barrier. I really like that. Either the Tune Barrier is going to have tremendous value because the enemy team has no stuns, knocks, and knockups, and they just won't be able to burst you down, period. Or they have a lot of stuns and knockups, and your Thermobond will just go to town, giving you back health on stuns. So I really like those options, and the Barrier of Will, especially if you have a phase that doesn't get a Barrier of Will. It's not the most common card. Honor the Pure is, but not necessarily Barrier of Will. That is an option that is really powerful. You can just get it yourself and use it for yourself in engagements, but in team fights, especially if your support doesn't have it, it can work very well as well. So that is pretty much my suggestions. Just a quick recap. The dummy ward is wonderful. The Guardian's ward, you get that. You do have 2 healer tokens, which is good. For Aurora, I would definitely try to keep those 2 healer tokens, plus get a health potion, so that you can get your dummy ward, health potion, into healer token, into this Guardian's ward. If you don't necessarily need that Guardian's ward, consider going to Burn Blood Powder first. The mana regen will go a long way, the power will go a long way, just because in the off lane, there's not much vision you necessarily need to put down. So go into Burn Blood Powder as a suggestion, into the Guardian's ward, get that. That's perfect, wonderful. The second Burn Blood Powder, I would probably get the Mind Flow, maybe even before this Burn Blood Powder, to be honest with you, as that is... it's very powerful, once you're level 5 with that 1 point, or with that level 1 ultimate. The Mind Flow is definitely in there somewhere. Get the 2 Burn Blood Powders, then into the Teleblink. Absolutely. Now that you have the power to warrant it, you need solid engagement, so there's the Teleblink. Another option as well, again, if you can consolidate some of these in some of these upgrades here, we should be able to squeeze in an Armivore, or sorry, not an Armivore. The card I'm thinking of is a Killdozer Horn. What this does is it grants 20% extra damage to nearby melee minions, or nearby minions, period. So what this does is it actually acts as your Thunder Cleaver. It acts as your Radiant Mantle. It acts as your Wave Clear, and it actually really works on Aurora. It actually really does, and this can be your tool to push back the lane quite nicely. So consider Killdozer Horn as a 3-point card you throw on in order to push back the lane and split push until it's just so that you can build up that farm a little bit, as you'll be lacking in the farm department. So that is definitely an option. Then you can go into your Burn Blood Powders. The Chronomancer disc, that is a good option. I would consider 1-point upgrades in here, putting that CP elsewhere. The Teleblink, I wouldn't do that mana regen, to be honest. My experience doesn't warrant it, again, but if yours does, absolutely keep it. Try to consolidate though. Mind Flow, take those off. That's just my opinion. What else? The Guardian's ward here, I would use this as more health, but if you need that power for the final build, and you have to put some cast on your Guardian's ward, that's not the end of the world, but that's a really good card that I like to switch out for my earlier ward to get some health. That definitely helps, obviously, in the tank department. Absolutely. And then you go into the the end game tankiness. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The Tune Barrier could be optional with a Thermobond. Again, consider that. The Tempered Plate could be optional against a Barrier of Will. Please consider that. The Guardian's Ward is wonderful. Then you'll have your Teleblink, your Mind Flow, and the Chronomancer Disc. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. This looks like a great, like a great deck. What you're gonna have to do though is definitely you're gonna have to be in engagements as much as possible to get value out of the cooldown reductions. You're gonna always have to be in engagement, using your ult, using your abilities, receiving value from the mana regen. So if you're not, you kind of just you're kind of wasting potential. So there you guys go, long-winded. Hopefully you appreciated all of the things I had to say. What do you guys think of this deck? You know, I think it is good. The potential, Aurora deals, her kit is fantastic. When she is allowed to shine, she does, and you really don't need to do much else on her to make her effective. So this tankiness will be fantastic. The cooldown reduction, oh, just layers on the potential of her kit. Teleblink is just pretty much a must-have on her, in my opinion. So great deck. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and hopefully everybody can learn from that as well. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. If you guys like this content, especially if you found it useful, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. If you would like to support me and what I do on a regular basis, please consider going over to my Patreon account where you can make a monthly pledge to support what I do and reap some pretty good rewards. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.